And you've never been to England? You have never been to England?
Well, I passed through in transit.
Okay.
On my way to and back. Yeah, on my way to the States and on my way
to the
back.
States, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in front of you.
Okay. So how did you enjoy your trip?
I am loving my trip.
Very good.
It's my first time,
And
but I've known about Burma obviously for a long time because of my grandfather.
I'm glad you succeeded in finding out a number of things you came to look for.
Yes.
Yes, that's very good.
Yes, I've come to meet the people who served with my grandfather, and I've met several of them, and so that's really interesting. And they have confirmed some of the stories and some of the records that I have.
Very good.
Yeah, so that's been really interesting.
He was a major or a captain in the army.
He was a lieutenant colonel.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. He started as a private. He joined up as a private, and he was too old to join up. He was 47 when in 1939. Oh. So he made himself 42, and they accepted him, and he started as a private, and he worked up. But very quickly he became known to them as somebody who knew the jungles of Burma very well. And he worked in Upper Chindwin, near Imphal, and the U Valley, and he created a force there called Peacock Force, and then he was asked to pick 80 to 100 of his best men to start Operation Character here in the Tangu.
Let's see. I had sort of fleeting memories of the end of the war, because I was in the hills, in the Tandown Hills. We were there during the occupation, and I remember we did see some fighting, some shooting, and I remember one time we were about to have our noonday meal. Suddenly there was a burst of machine gun fire from the edge of the village. So I said, "Oh, the Japs are coming. Let's go and hide." So instead of just going to hide, we each picked up our dish of rice, and we just went to the cave and we sat down and finished our meal there. So we did have fun.
Did you find the Japanese very cruel?
Well, I tell you what.
Because you must have been very young, yes?
Well, I was about when the war ended. I was about 45. But it so happened that the garrison, the station in our village, was commanded by a Japanese sergeant by the name of Tomozawa, and he was a Christian.
He was a Christian?
Yes, and several of his men were also Christians, and so we had a very good time. They were not, they didn't oppress us. They didn't even subject us to hard labor. You see, what happened was, at the beginning of the war, we went up to the hills, and my mother had a piano, and we put that piano in church. So when the Japanese came to our village, they went around and then they saw the church and they went up the church. And when they saw the piano, they were rather impressed, because the village is in a rather rough, it's accessible by rather a rough road, you see. So
this is Tandong.
Yeah, and yet Tandong, it's called Tobiaji. And when they saw the piano, they were surprised, and they were also impressed. And they said, "Piano?" "Yes, piano." "Who played?" "We played." So, of course, we played, and then the sergeant brought out a hymn book, and he said, "You." Of course, being Japanese, he couldn't pronounce the word L, so "You pray this?" "Yes, we pray."
Okay.
And so we played some hymns, they sang. And that was, well, because of the piano, they knew that this village was well developed.
Yes. Oh, that's really interesting. So because they were Christian, they were nicer to you perhaps than the others.
The others, yeah.
Yeah. Because there are some horrible stories. Aren't there?
Yes, yeah. But although they were Christians, they did bring us something which we didn't like, and that was body lice. Body lice. But now, after they left, the lice also left. Returned with them.
Oh, really? They didn't like you?
No, they didn't like. They prefer Japanese blood.
Okay, that's good news.
See, I remember, and then you see when the British came back. I was sitting in front of the house, and near me there was a tray of eggs. And so as they passed the house, they said, "Hey, there's some eggs there. I think they're for sale." And so they came to me, and one of the soldiers was about to make signs to me. And then his friend, "Hey, I don't think he can see, all right?" So he comes to me and he picks up one of the eggs and he put it in my hand. And then he put a sort of a banknote after that, and he took it back. And he did it the second time. And then when he did it the third time, I said, "Well, if you want to buy eggs, why don't you say so? Don't you think I am dumb? Do you think?" And he said, "Oh, he speaks English." Yeah, of course I speak English.
That's very interesting. So there's two questions there. One is, how did you learn English in Thadong when so long ago?
Well, I don't know. I grew up hearing it. Yeah, I grew up hearing it, and more or less I learned it.
You have a very good ear. Excellent ear.
You know, but if, I must tell you frankly, now I myself don't believe it, but when they say that I am sort of reincarnated, because they said I was killed during the war, at the outset of the war, but reincarnated. And so the thing was like this, when I heard English, it seems that I said, it was like, a deja vu experience.
That's very odd, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is very odd.
Very odd.
Because you speak the very best English I've heard in Burma.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very
Absolutely. Apart from me.
And, of course. See, when they came, I said, seems like I've heard this language before. It sounded so familiar.
Isn't that strange?
And the fact that I was only 3 or 4 and spoke fluent English, it surprised them. It even surprised my family.
Yes, really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Because previous to that, I didn't speak much.
But the other question I had was,
yes.
Were you born blind?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so you were born blind.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder maybe, actually, whether your ears picked up things like language better because you had to compensate.
Oh, yes. And another thing was gramophones.
Ah.
Yeah, gramophone records. We had a lot of gramophone records, English and Japanese and quite a few others. But the majority of the records were gramophone, so we enjoyed listening to gramophone, pick up a word here and there, and finally make sense of it. Yeah, that was...
Well, that's very interesting because I would have thought that somebody from a remote village would maybe speak basic English, but not perfect. But it's very good, isn't it? Excellent.
Thank you.
And were you able to use that English after the war, or?
Oh yes, I've been using it ever since. And when I went to the States, I was there for a number of years. I studied there.
Ah, okay.
And they said to me, you've been here for only a few days, but it seems like we've known you all along, because you are so familiar with American culture. I go, wow. Because all the books I read come from America. Yeah.
Well, I have to say I'm very pleased that you don't speak with an American accent. You speak with a British accent.
Well, if I want to, I could do it.
No, please don't.
Yeah. Well, you don't like our accent, do you?
Whereabouts in the States were you?
I was in New England, Massachusetts.
Ah, okay, on the East Coast.
And
yes.
and that's more British than American, because they call it New England.
Yes, it is quite a lot. Yeah, I know the East Coast of the States quite well. I spent a lot of time flying there.
Also Europe, you're an aviator, right?
I am, that's
good.
right, yes.
An airline pilot or private?
No, but both, but airline pilot, yeah.
Oh, very good.
So I spent 10 years flying long haul, so all over to America and to the Far East as well. But for the last 8 years, I've been flying just within Europe.
I see.
Short haul.
You own your own company or you work for it?
No. I work for British Airways.
I said British Airways. Let's say they used to call it BOAC, right?
They did. Well, the British BOAC, British Overseas Airways Corporation, and then there was another airline, BEA, British European Airways, and in was it 1987? They merged anyway, and the two airlines became British Airways.
And when I came back from the States, I had the opportunity to ride. I think these aircrafts are out of service now. Comets.
Oh, only just.
I see.
Well, they've been out of service for commercial air travel for a long time, but the Royal Air Force were using them until 2-3 years ago.
They call it Electra, I think.
No, the Comet. The Electra was an American aircraft. The Comet was British.
I remember riding a Comet. I went there by Pan Am, and I came back by BOAC.
Oh, okay. All right. On a 747?
Well, it was when I went in those days. Let's see, they didn't have 7. They had what's it, 7 something.
707?
Oh yeah, 707.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those days. And the people there were quite impressed, because some of them were from Norway or Sweden, and they spoke with us. What you call Scandinavian accent.
Okay.
And so when they heard me talking, they said, "Oh, you have any American blood in you?" I said, "No." Yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, the Scandinavians speak excellent English too.
Oh yes, they do.
They do, and the Dutch. All those. I don't know where they get their English from, but they speak it so well.
And with no noticeable accent.
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
But when the Germans speak English, oh.
Yes. But there's a story. My parents-in-law lived in Kent during the war. They were children, and my mother-in-law was evacuated from somewhere. But they were told that if they were suspicious of somebody and they thought they might be German, they had to say squirrel. They had to get the word squirrel into the conversation, because the Germans can't say squirrel, they have to say skvirrel. So if the person said skvirrel, they were German. So that's the story they tell.
And because I remember we were in school, we were doing our physical, and we had to our military drill, of course, we were drilling, and we had this trainee from German who was our physical instructor for that day, you see. So he said, "All right, fall in." So we all fell in line. Quick march, and then we started marching. Left, right, left, right, and the accent sounded so funny. We started laughing.
Oh.
Hey, this is no laughing matter. This is drilling. Forward, that's the wind. And you know these maneuvers, we march until you reach the end of the line, you about turn, and you come back, and then you left turn and you right turn, and finally you have to mark time. And in the course of directing us and telling us not to laugh, he evidently forgot a mark time. And so we knew that mark time should come, but the order did not come. So we just followed his orders, and we turned right and turned left, and finally he became so exasperated. He says, "Quick march, don't go anywhere." And there was this, "Quick march, don't go anywhere." And we all laughed.
That's drill. Oh,
yeah, that's drill for you.
Yeah, indeed.
We enjoyed it.
So some people enjoy it, some people don't like it at all. Yeah. My son, strangely, enjoyed it. We didn't think he would enjoy the military environment, but he joined the cadets.
I see.
But he did. He enjoyed it very much. And it may be that he will join the Navy one day.
I see. Very good. Yeah, I like things military because of its precision and
and you know the boundaries. It's very
I know.
you're in a box and you know.
Oh, you know how to prevent yourself from bumping against the sides.
Yes, but that's painful.
Yeah, that can be painful.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so you were actually very young in the war.
Oh yes.
During the war. But your parents, did they tell you stories?
Well, they didn't, but we heard it all
Okay.
around, because we are more or less a gregarious company, and whenever we come together, we will tell stories of this and that. We heard what we have heard. And the interesting thing is, during the war, during the entire Japanese occupation, we didn't lose anyone.
No, the numbers were incredible, weren't they?
They didn't kill anyone. No one in our village got killed at all. No, got punished.
No.
And that's surprising.
It is surprising. But even the numbers from my grandfather's operation, and I think I'm right in saying this, that they raised eventually 12,000 Karen levies, and in the course of the war they killed 3,000, was it 3,000 Japanese?
Japanese. Oh, really?
No, that's more than that. I think they killed 12,000 Japanese for the loss of about 300 people. So the numbers were quite extraordinary.
I know.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, if they are from the hills, then the Karens know how to carry themselves around.
Exactly so. Yeah. Exactly. That's what my grandfather said. He said the Karens know the hill country far better than any Japanese person.
Because they ain't got no hill people in Japan.
Yeah. No, that's right. That is your home. So you know it so well.
Yeah, we know it so well. And some of them are sort of amateur hunters, and so they could use firearms or they could conceal themselves.
Exactly. Yes. I think the way that my grandfather conducted the operations was to be concealed and choose where the fighting would take place. So always to fight on your own ground, conceal yourself until the last moment. Because he, of course, was in the Burmese jungles for 20 years. He worked in the forests. So he knew all the people, and he was almost as good in the
my father was also in the timber industry.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a forest officer.
When did he retire?
Well, actually, he died.
Okay.
He never had a chance to retire, and during the Japanese occupation, he was conscripted by the Japanese to work for them. In the Pimana forest, and he was there for a while.
Okay. Okay, because my grandfather retired from the forestry service in 1931.
I see.
So maybe your father was working then?
Maybe.
So maybe they would have met each other.
They would have met each other, yeah.
Because my grandfather was stationed in Pimana. He lived there.
Yes, my father worked there.
I'm sure they might have known each other.
They may have met, yeah. And my father, you see, my grandfather on my father's side, he gave his children sort of unusual names, especially my father. My father was the eldest of 10, and by the way, Reverend Bernardo and I are first cousins.
Okay.
Yeah, our fathers were brothers.
Right.
And see, his father was Benaiah. Of course, Benaiah is from the Bible. There's some Benaiahs there. But my father's name was Porfirio.
What?
Porfirio.
What does that mean?
Well, Porfirio happens to be one of the princes of Spain, I believe,
okay.
or Mexico. So this grandfather of mine had the habit of drawing strange names for his children.
It sounds almost Shakespearean to me.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
almost like Porfirio.
Okay. And were you always Baptist?
Yes. Well, I am an Anglican Baptist.
You must explain that to me.
Well, when I was, you see, I did have my father died while he was posted to Rakhine State.
Right.
And when we went to Rakhine State, there was no Baptist church. There was only an Anglican church and a Catholic church. So we went to this Anglican church, and I was rather fascinated by baptism. And so I said to my parents, "Hey, I want to be baptized." You don't get dunked in the water like the Baptists do. They just sprinkle water on your head. And so I said, "All right, it's up to you." So I got baptized as an Anglican. But and shortly after my confirmation, something told me that I should be baptized like a Baptist.
You just like water, maybe?
Yeah, maybe I like water.
Yeah.
So I said, "What if I get baptized?" And then there was an uncle of mine. He said, "You know, when you were baptized as an Anglican, only your hair got wet. But now as a Baptist, your whole body will be wet."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, that means I'll be much cleaner."
Free bath.
Yeah. But you see, but I still retain some of my Anglican traditions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think it's acceptable that you can pick from what you like from either side? After all, you are essentially from the Christian faith.
Oh yes.
The same.
So whether you're a Baptist or an Anglican, it makes no difference.
Not really, in my eyes.
So I do this sometimes when they ask me to help them. I help them out because sometimes they have foreigners and they can't read their prayers properly. So I had to read it for them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you interact with the Buddhist community, who presumably are the majority? Are they?
Oh, fine. Yeah, fine.
And likewise, they're very gentle, tolerant.
In fact, they do. I have a lot of Buddhist students coming here and you know what I teach them? I read from a periodical called Our Daily Bread. It's a Christian periodical.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I'm sharing this with you not because of the religion, but because of the way this periodical is written, and the way words and sentences are phrased, and that they liked it.
Yes, yes. But also, I think the tenet of the Christian faith, just the values and the ideals, are just good rules to live by. Whether you believe in the religion or not, it's a good way to live your life, isn't it?
And I even teach them the English terms used in Buddhism, because some of them they don't know what novitiation is, what libation and merits and demerits and all these things. You see. These terms, of course, and they were quite impressed. Because I do a lot of reading, I am a more or less a bookworm, I think.
Okay. And these are all in Braille then?
And all in Braille.
That must be difficult to get hold of.
Not quite, because I had access to one of these libraries, and at that time they were changing the Braille format. You see, Braille is divided into 3 categories or classes. There's the grade 1, which is very basic, and there is grade 1.5, which is a little difficult, and grade 2, which is the most difficult. And while I was growing up, one library in a blind school was discarding all the grade 1.5 and grade 1 books.
Okay.
And replacing them with grade 2 books, and so they sent all those books to me.
Oh, that was nice.
Yes.
That was good.
I have read, I mean, no kidding, I've read over 15,000 books and magazines.
You must spend your whole time reading.
Well, yes, and you know, when I went to school, the same thing. I enjoyed reading, and so late into the night I would read. But sometimes, if I get carried away, I would read about almost up to a few minutes before we were supposed to get up. And the reason was that I can do with very little sleep.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
You're lucky. You're like Margaret Thatcher, the British old Prime Minister. She didn't need
You
much.
turn if you want to, but the lady is not for turning. I like that.
Is there nothing you don't know?
I'll always remember that. You turn if you want to, but the lady is not for turning.
She had a very good turn of phrase.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then
Uncle Philip, how many times you have read the Bible?
well, I've read. I've forgotten. But all I do is if I can't sleep, I just get up and read the Bible or read something, rather than trying to sleep.
Yes, my wife does that too. Or she has things she listens to. So she under her pillow she'll have a tape recorder, well, an iPod.
Oh yes.
And she'll sleep like that listening to it. And she doesn't wake me up, but she can listen, and she listens to a lot of things that way. Yeah. So do you read other things like the Quran? Do you read, what's the Buddhist text?
Well, if I had a Quran, I could read it. But with Buddhist texts, we have read them in school.
Right.
And see, nowadays they are some of these well-known Buddhist monks have, well, we would call it, if to use a Christian term, tape ministry or voice ministry. They record their sermons and their lectures on discs. And, and you can study them if you wish.
Oh, I see.
I listen to them sometimes.
Because I think my son was or is reading the Quran just to know what's in it, and I think that's so important, because otherwise you can criticize another faith or religion, but you don't know anything about it. So it's better, I think, that you read it at least.
It's true. And one day there was this a watchmaker that I would go to repair my watches or to clean them up. And we were talking about the Quran, and I said, "Is there any translation of the Quran in English?" He said, "Yes, I'll give you one." And then next time I go down to Rangoon, I'll bring back one. So he went down to Rangoon. He came back, no Quran. He went down the second time, still no Quran. The third time, no Quran. So I asked his son, "Hey, your dad promised me a Quran." 3 times he's been down to Rangoon, but no Quran came back with him. He said, "You know why? Because one Quran costs over 15,000. That's too much for my dad." Well, in that case, it's all right. But fortunately, I had the discretion of not asking him where my Quran was, you see.
Yes. So you still haven't.
No,
haven't got one.
I still haven't got one, but I do listen to reading it sometimes.
I'm sure they must be available.
Oh yeah, they are in Yangon.
In Yangon. Yeah. Or audio books. Do you listen to audio books?
Yes, I do. In fact, but the thing is, I'm the kind who prefers to read myself.
Okay. Yes.
Sitting down and listening to audiobooks can be most boring unless you don't have time to read with your fingers.
Yeah, I see.
But I did listen to it. The longest audiobook I listened to was War and Peace.
Oh, well, that's about the longest book there is. Yeah.
At that time, they didn't have these long playing records. They had the 30-minute records. And as far as I can remember, you get 15 minutes recording or playing time on each side.
Yes.
And it took 68 records to record the entirety of War and Peace in its entirety. So I remember that.
Yeah. Yes, that would have been a lot. Nowadays, of course, it's all electronic.
Oh yes.
It sits on a disc the size of your thumb.
And then you can read for hours and hours.
Yes. But you're absolutely right. It's better to read for yourself, because that's your imagination working, isn't it? Yeah.
And then when you want to find something, you can locate it immediately.
Can you?
Yes, because but if you use an audio tape, you'll have to use, well, unless you know how to operate the searching mechanism or relocating mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah, it takes you a long time to do it.
I guess it would do, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how you would search an audio book. Yeah. That's fascinating. And do you teach English now?
Yes, I do.
Uh-huh.
Well, I do it on a voluntary or basis like that. Not in any special class in school, but people come to me for lessons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes they ask me to help them with their essays or whatever.
Uh-huh. Yes. I was just wondering, actually, Philip, it occurred to me. Do you remember last night the gentleman who was in the Chindits and he brought his booklet of his memories?
Yeah.
And I just occurred to me, I wondered whether if somebody could read that to Philip, he could translate it into English.
I'll do that.
Could you?
Yes,
Because it looked to me very interesting. Not very thick, but it's completely unintelligible to me. I don't speak or read a word of it.
Was it in Karen or in Burmese?
Yeah.
I don't know.
His notes.
Where did you?
The booklet last night, which the gentleman...
The hospital?
No, the one that came to dinner. He was sitting opposite me and he had a book with his photograph and his medals on. What language was that in?
Korean.
Should be Korean.
Korean.
That was in Korean.
Only Korean. Only Korean.
Sit opposite you.
Yeah, and he had a hearing aid as well.
Like Korean coat. Short Korean coat.
Yes, and short silver hair.
Yeah. Abu Kerry.
Abu Kerry.
Oh, that's
Yes, Kerry. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
His commanding officer was Colonel Harming.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe your father may know.
I don't think so because he was in the Chindits, and my grandfather wasn't in the Chindits. But I just thought that whatever is in that booklet would be very, very interesting to read, and I wondered if you could maybe translate it.
In Korean, yeah.
Hey, I tell you what, if you're interested,
Maybe.
you can come and look at my small library.
Library.
Our relatives was associated with him.
Major Seagram.
Yeah, and he was one of the intelligence officers.
Okay.
And before the British came back, he parachuted down in the Tandang Hills. He and another man.
Do you remember their names?
Yeah, the man's, I forgot the name of the other man, but this man's name was Jepson.
Okay.
Let's see now what. Oh, Jepson Ao. Yeah, Jepson. Yeah, he's no longer living.
No.
Yeah, his name was Jepson Ao. He was in the British Intelligence Service.
Okay. And they parachuted because the story that I know is that Seagram's wireless did not work, so he was completely out of contact with the British, and they parachuted. I think this gentleman and Majors McCrindle and Nimmo parachuted in, and then there was a battle, and Nimmo and McCrindle both died.
Oh.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was your family were aware of Seagram.
Oh yes, we were aware of him, and we often did things behind the backs of the Japanese.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And very successfully too. So I believe.
Yeah. Because they didn't know that we could carry messages. But being children, we were above suspicion.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
So did you carry messages?
Oh yes.
Or you were a little bit too young.
And of course being blind, no one paid attention to me. You see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just let me go. I just went about.
And how did you find your way through the forest, being blind?
Well, more or less, when you've been to a place for a long time, you more or less know your ways.
I guess so. Yeah. I can understand it in a city with roads and lampposts. But
and then we have, of course, liaisons or connections. Yeah. So, and all children, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I suppose you're also able to feel the sun on your face.
Oh yes.
And then you know which direction you're heading.
And then you use your senses.
Yes. Yes, it's something that for the seeing people, for people with eyesight, it's almost impossible to understand.
In fact, when I was in the States, I even joined the Coast Guard volunteers.
Ah.
That's where I got my military training. And I left with the rank of a sergeant.
Did you?
Yes. I left with
That's very impressive.
But then when I came back here, I found out that the people they didn't quite appreciate the Yanks, so I said I forgot about my rank.
Well, it's upside down anyway, isn't it?
But now the Yanks are coming back.
They are a little bit, aren't they? Yes, yes. There are a lot of nationalities coming back.
Oh yes.
But it seems to me there's a lot of French and Germans
Yes, they are everywhere.
But yeah, I heard one or two Americans in Rangoon, but I guess they were there for business. I'm not sure.
Oh yes, and then of course we do have a lot of tourists.
Yes.
They're coming around.
Yeah. Well, many more so now.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And then one day, one man from England came and he said, you know, I'm one of these freelance correspondents. And I said, do you have anything to do with the BBC? I said, yes. I said, well, without asking who you are, when you go back to London and to this broadcasting house, you tell whoever is responsible that during prime time listening hours, I cannot get a decent frequency from the BBC in English. So do something about it.
My goodness.
They have sort of a, you know, they shuffle their programs around, and sometimes during prime time listening hours, you cannot get the BBC at all.
Well, do you know, I met at a wedding a few years ago, I met somebody who was quite high up in the BBC World Service.
Yes.
And she was saying that they are under very severe cost pressures now. And there are certain people within the BBC establishment who would like to stop the World Service altogether. So I think they're finding it very difficult to compete with all the other...
However, I find that a lot of programs that they broadcast, I mean news aside, political, programs aside, have to do with business.
Yes.
And so I said, if this is, British broadcasting commercial, instead of corporation, it has become a commerce or commercial, because a great deal of the time is devoted to business.
Yes, yes.
As if all BBC listeners are businessmen or businesswomen. Oh, and then they for example, before you can only get a decent frequency between 6 and 6:30 in the morning, and they broadcast only 5 minutes of news. That the rest is devoted to business, daily business or business matters.
Well, with your permission, I will send your comments to the BBC, and I'm sure they will ignore them completely.
I know. Or they always have an excuse.
Yes, and normally it's financially constrained, because Britain is not a rich country anymore.
Before, they had a program called Letterbox, and of course you send in your gripes or your suggestions or whatever. But whenever you complain of something, well, they always have a reason why they had to take it off. Because BBC used to be a very, very educative broadcasting station. You get everything there, science, arts, music.
Well, do you know what? It still is. It's still the most amazing place. But they've moved very much into the internet.
I know.
So if you have a computer, you can find huge amounts of information. But of course, if you don't have access to a computer, then I think a lot of that has disappeared.
I know. And then there was humor. Everything that suits your taste you can get it from the BBC.
Absolutely. I think it's a wonderful
and
station.
I still have an admiration and respect for this station, because they don't mince words, or they are not superfluous in what they say. They go straight to the point.
Yes, I think
you can get more information in 5 minutes of newscasting from the BBC than 15 minutes of newscasting from some other stations.
I think you're right, but then I'm a bit biased. But I listen to Radio 4 an awful lot. And we wake up to the Today programme. I don't know if that's broadcast on the World Service.
No.
But it's a fantastic current affairs programme, and it brings together all the topical current affairs of the day and interviews the politicians. And I'm sure that a lot of those would find their way through to the World Service in time. and broadcast. But it's by far the best informative radio station that I've
It is
ever
very,
listened to.
very good. I love their way of presentation. Yeah.
Do you ever listen to Voice of America, for example?
Well, I do.
Uh-huh.
I had no choice. That's the clearest. That's the clearest station that I can get in the morning. But even then, they too have sort of X some of their programs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I will definitely pass those comments on to whoever I can.
Yeah. To be ignored.
Possibly so. Possibly.
Yeah,
Or maybe it's a very quick fix. I don't know.
I know. Yeah.
But I do remember from my time operating high frequency radio on the airlines that it's a very inexact science how to choose the right frequency for the time of day and the weather conditions.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But I'm sure medium frequency, which I think is the World Service, is different. But I'm not quite sure how.
Well, I try to scan all the wave bands, but you can only get them, and reception is very poor.
How about if you had a big aerial here on the roof or a big pole? Would that help?
Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So maybe if you were to get somebody to put a big bamboo
But
pole up
sometimes
on an aerial.
when you put up these areas, you get a lot of outside interference.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like these fluorescent lamps.
Yeah.
Oh, they make a lot of humming noise.
Yes, they do, don't they? They can be really quite unpleasant.
I know.
In fact, it's interesting that you say that, because with your acute sense of hearing, you've noticed that. My son also had the same thing, and he would, when we went into some stores when he was young, where the televisions were on, it was the same thing. He found it very distressing. He couldn't take the noise, and he got very agitated, and we had to leave.
See, this is the same thing with me. Sometimes I visit a restaurant, and there's this television blaring. And, well, if there's only one television, it's all right. But sometimes there are more than one.
Yes.
And each goes on a different channel.
Yes.
Ha.
I know.
So what I do is when a waiter comes to me and says, "May I take your order, please?" I say, "Yes." Please turn down the music. Or switch it off altogether if no one is
I absolutely
listening.
agree. I don't like to go into restaurants or pubs with televisions playing.
I know.
I find it very distracting.
I said, is everyone deaf in here? And so they turned down the music. And after I did this once or twice in a particular restaurant, when they saw me coming, "Hey, there's the gentleman coming, please switch off the music."
The one who sit in front when we are at the sitting room. The one who sits in front is direct.
Not Kerry.
Not Kerry.
Not Kerry.
Powell.
Oh, he was the father as well.
Yes.
The pastor.
Pastor,
Yes.
He was a pastor, yes.
Yes.
He was in the army.
He himself, that book he writes that.
He was in the army.
And that book was translated.
He wrote about his
Experiences.
story.
Oh, really? No,
His
because
own story.
he had the application form he showed me.
With
Yes.
the map, you see, with the map
With
at
the-
the end of the book, there is a map.
His commanding officer was Colonel Colgar. I don't know what's that.
Okay, I'm getting confused then because I thought that gentleman had two sheets of A4 paper, which was the Burma Welfare Association application form,
So,
and it was the other gentleman.
we can get the book.
Yeah, the other gentleman.
The other gentleman had the booklet. But anyway, if we can get the booklet, that would be really good.
Oh, he likes it when people read about him.
Oh, does he? Okay, well,
yes.
that would be good. If you wouldn't mind, and of course, I would pay you for your time.
It's all right.
That would be lovely.
He was in India for maybe 2 or 3 years.
He always said first wing grade, second wing
Wing grade,
grade.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Yes. But that was Kerry.
So Powell.
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 Yeah, Powell.
Okay, so Powell.
Powell, yeah, Powell.
He has a hearing aid. He uses a hearing aid.
That's right. Okay, I'm getting confused with the name. But,
Yeah.
But he was the bigger of the people,
yeah.
largest. Okay, yeah.
White hair.
That's right. But very sort of spiky, short.
A hearing aid. Yeah.
And the hearing aid in his pocket.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. Okay. Powell. Yes,
Yes,
you're right.
Powell
Powell.
for you.
But that'd be fantastic. Yeah. So.
พี่เจคอบปัว
chưa có một đợt ấy
Ồ, bố chú Jacob mà. Ồ, giờ là một đếp hồ rồi. Lớp chào đuôi mà.
đâu pin
เจ
gì
คอบ
sao
เอาวานี่อบูเจคอบ
อ๋อมีล็อกอุสระมี
À, qua đôi tí.
มี
เอาวาที่
แม่
เพิ่งเล่นข่าวอุดมลับ
มี
อบูคาริชิตลับ
แค่นี้อ่ะมี
โอเคจักรโวยหรอ
มี
Mimi, ani ba tara Abu Jacob ni mama pa lesson ada kan.
อีกพักเลยเชียวเลยเชียวที่มามี
Do you mind if I take a
มี
ตากระดุนนี่นะคะ
อ๋อแต่ก็ดูดาวเลยเอ
I won't smile because you'll see my missing teeth.
อมีสิ่งที่
That's okay, missing teeth are good.
By the way
I don't know if
I want to request one Jimmy song
เย่
yes please
Oh.
กันเลยชิกันเลยชิ
Are you going to play a song for us? That would be great.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
good singer good guitar player
You're a man of complete
I know.
talents, aren't you?
Thank you.
And you sing well?
Well,
Yes.
I try to.
You're in tune, which is more than me, I'm sure.
I see.
I know him long
You
time.
you follow sports?
He's a famous
I follow a little bit of sport.
I
I'm
see.
not a sports fanatic, but I follow football. Reading Football Club is my
Yes.
football club.
Mine is Spurs.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
Spurs, okay.
I'm a Spurs fan.
So what do you think about Gareth Bale going to Real Madrid?
โอเค
Oh yeah, I love. I think Spurs is improving this year.
Uh-huh. But of course they've lost their manager, Harry Redknapp, haven't they?
Oh yes,
He's doing very well at Queen's
He's a
Park
very good-
Rangers.
and although Manchester United is most people's favorite, it's not mine.
It used to be mine,
Oh yeah,
but I actually went to see them
how big?
last season.
My guitar hasn't been played for a long time, I think. How long has it been since you talked with the Lord and told him your heart's hidden secrets? How long have you prayed? How long have you stayed on your knees till the light shone through? How long has it been since you walked with the dawn and felt that your life worth the living? Can you call him a friend? How long has it been since you knew that he cared for you? How long has it been since you knelt by your bed and talked to the Lord up in heaven? How long since you knew that he cared for you and will keep you the night long through? How long has it been since your mind felt at ease? How long since your heart knew no burden? Can you call him a friend? How long has it been since you knew that he cared for you? Can you call him a friend? How long has it been since you knew that he cared for you?
Oh, that is fantastic.
one of Jimmy's
Yeah, that's Jim Reed's song.
I think I could listen to you all day.
Sin also Jerusalem
Yeah?
Jerusalem
You know, I used to, one of the things that I did in school was we and some of my friends, we would sometimes just sit and, well, paraphrase or write parodies of certain songs.
Uh-huh.
And once someone asked me to write a poem for our class assignment. And I said, since it was an English class, I said, I might as well write something about English. So I wrote that poem, and I found a tune for it in one of the American musicals, Annie Get Your Gun. And there was a song called Do It Naturally. And as I listened to the tune and studied the notes, I said, this tune will suit my, my poem. And so this is how it goes. Teacher Jones, he makes such bones about pronunciation. I don't care, because I dare saying what comes naturally. Can't expect to be perfect with my accentuation. Things get worse when I rehearse, I keep bungling naturally. It felt so nice and dandy to be in grammar school, but soon I found too many exceptions to the rule. If I make a bad mistake in any presentation, there's no use for any excuse, I just do it naturally. We get hordes of foreign words from many a different nation. French or Finnish, Dutch or Yiddish, I'll just learn them naturally. Distant places, tribes and races add their complication. Things get worse when I rehearse, I die terribly naturally. It isn't necessary to study words all day. To friend or adversary, this much I have to say. So if it's unfair, but I declare, don't be in desperation. If you slip, just take this trip, try and do it naturally.
That's so wonderful. What a talent you have.
Thank you.
Really so. Goodness.
Uncle Harrison, till we meet again, Bob. Till we meet again.
May the good Lord bless and keep you, whether near or far away. When you find that long-awaited golden day today, may your troubles all be small ones, and your fortune 10 times 10. May the good Lord bless and keep you till we meet again. May you walk with sunlight shining and with bluebirds in every tree. May there be a silver lining, and on every cloud you see, fill your dreams with sweet tomorrow. Never mind what might have been. May the good Lord bless and keep you till we meet again. May the good Lord bless and keep you till we meet again.
Oh, how fantastic. Do you have a favourite song?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, not quite, because all the songs that I sing are favorite songs. Yeah, so I have quite a few. But sometimes, and if I cannot think of any, I sort of make up my own.
Well, I've heard one of them, and that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Really, really. I could listen to you all day.
Thank you.
So one left song. Have you ever been lonely?
Yeah, it's happens that I am lonely.
Have you ever been lonely?
Oh, by the way, are you familiar with Flanders and Swan.
Oh yes. When I was growing up, I listened to Flanders and Swan all the time.
Oh,
when I was sick and I didn't go to school, I would play their records all day.
Oh yes, I love Flanders and Swan.
Yes.
And they come up with some of the most...
They do. Very clever words, aren't they?
Very clever words.
Yes. I'm trying to think of the one that I always used to remember. It's about
Mud, glorious, mud.
Yeah, well, that one too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So follow me, follow down to the hollow, then we will wallow in glorious mud.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I grew up with them.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I remember he wrote the words to Mozart's French horn in E flat. And it was a riot.
Ah, I don't know. I don't remember that. I don't think.
I see.
I don't think so.
Nè. Đó. Nè. Bahasa pertama pada seru kala.
Nên sư cả. Gì à? Bố phao aussi à?
Bố phao ở ngoài Đà Nẵng thì ở bên này cũng mình nhớ sẽ lẽ là lang vào.
I think a mutual friend of Jesse's and mine would love to meet you. I think Mark Fenn would really, really like to meet Philip.
Yeah.
Mark Fenn.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Would that be okay? A mutual friend of ours is a journalist, and he lives in Bangkok with his wife, and he's very, very interested, and he's a real ambassador for the Karen people, and I think he would love to meet and talk to you.
Good.
Would that be all right?
Fine.
I will suggest it to him.
It will be
So we go and visit another lady.
Do we have to go?
Yeah.
There are some people you should be meeting. Some old soldiers.
I've met a
lady,
few.
her husband also serving in British Army.
Okay.
And maybe she can tell you some story.
Okay, that would be lovely. Well, it's been fantastic to meet you, Phil.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Anytime you need me, you holler.
But you have to wait for our driver to come.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
He's outside the